and welcome to Season 3 of Design Together, a podcast exploring how designers work together. I am your host, Abby Ryan Guido, a designer and educator working in Philadelphia, collaborating everywhere. Today we have with us Soonduk Krebs and Georgiana Constantinescu from SK Designworks. SK Designworks was founded by Soonduk over 25 years ago and has been creating amazing work in and around Philadelphia ever since. Georgie is a senior designer there and has been there for almost 6 years. Thank you both so much for being here today.
Hi.
Hi, Soonduk. So I love bringing on people I know. It's so much fun. And I wanted to make sure I note this, that Soonduk was actually my instructor when I was in school. And I did a little bit of math on that. And I think we're approaching almost 23 years. And I also wanted to note on the other side of things that Georgie was a student of mine. And so that was, I don't know, probably if I didn't do that math, but I think that's probably about 8 years ago now as well. So I'm excited to have you both here. And I know we're going to have a great conversation and a great dynamic since we have such a history together.
Absolutely.
Soonduk, I'm going to start with you. And I wanted you just to tell us a little about the history of how you got started, how you came to find SK Designworks.
When I graduated from Tyler, I got a really amazing job at working with Design Associates. And a lot of what I do now and the culture of studio is really inspired by that studio where we were serious about what we do, very professional, but we were goofy, and ate a lot of food, drank a lot. So I think that tradition still carries through SK Designworks. I worked there for almost 5 years and partnered with Paul Sheriff, the infamous, amazing Mr. Sheriff, and a few years. And then that just merged into SK Designworks. And I've been just at it since then. The studio is very small by choice. I have no intention of making it any bigger than what we have. I love this small setting where we can just have a great time, work hard, and control the quality of the studio. So that's been a plan, and it's always going to be like that.
So what are some of those benefits? You know, you have clients and they compare your studio to some larger agencies. What are the benefits of coming to a smaller studio?
What the clients are telling us is that they can always, especially talk to me. And of course, designers are working closely with them as well. We're always available. And they think that's like such a great plus versus bigger agencies. Like a lot of times they really can't get that kind of intimate service that we're giving. I mean, our thing is we like to under-promise and over-deliver, and that's really working out for us.
So Georgie, this was your first job out of school, is that correct?
Yes, it was.
So I'll tell a side story really quickly about my first job. It was actually my second, but I don't count my first one because it was so quick. My first job that I stayed at for a while in New York City, and I remember it was a similar size studio, right? There were 2 founders and 2 designers. And I remember like one of the first days the phone rings and I pick it up and I say hello because no one ever said like when you pick up a phone in an office, this is what you should say. And times are different and clients are often more likely to email now than to even call. But coming into a small studio, what are some of the things that you experienced coming in, you know, knowing that you were having contact with clients? You know, it's very different than being a large agency where you have a project manager, you have an account manager, and sometimes you don't even know the client's name sometimes because you're just doing the work and being asked what to do. So what was your experience coming into a small studio?
Well, I am a big people person, so I loved that being part of a small studio, I am able to connect with the clients and talk directly to the clients. I also remember picking up the phone and, you know, being trained by my coworker here at that time, being told, you know, you say hello, SK Designworks, how may I help you? As well as, email culture. There's definitely ways to be very polite and respectful over email culture that I wasn't really exposed to as a student. I remember when I was first emailing my teachers, I wasn't in the Tyler program. I was in just Temple as a whole at first. And I would have to tell my name, my full name, what class
That's
I'm in.
so funny you just said that, because when I was looking back to see how long ago you were in my class, I found that exact email.
No way.
And I was laughing. It says Dear Professor Guido. Yes. So I've experienced the Georgie email before.
That's so sweet. Yeah, I remember I would have to spell out my whole name, say exactly what class I was in. And I think, Abby, you told me, you're I know who you are. You don't have to say your name and what class you're in every time you email me.
Right, because you came to a program where, we have tops 15 students in a class. So within a few weeks, you know who your students are. So I always get a kick. It's always very polite. I appreciate it. But I think it's just funny that you brought that up. And I happened to see that today myself.
That's awesome. Yeah. So it was very organic of a transition, I'd say, going from Tyler to SK Designworks.
So Soonduk, you mentioned small, and am I right that you have 2 full-time employees right now?
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little about how the 3 of you work together on projects? Is it typical that one designer is just on one project? Do you often come together and work together on the whole project? What is the kind of normal flow of a project through the studio?
I think when project comes in, we would have initial meeting. And most of the times, by the time we usually get into the meeting together. And by the time we were done with the meeting, there's pretty good sense of what client is looking for. So in general, a lot of times all 3 of us pitch in design concepts. And then if I'm too busy, these guys will be doing it. And a lot of times that I like to just let them do their thing, rather than directing too much in the beginning. And because I like that diversity of the concepts for everyone that comes with. So that just makes it much more interesting. And then once they get to it, I think as a senior designer, Georgie often works with the junior designer very closely. Like we all know, she's a people person. I am a bit of a loner. I like to close my door, loud music, just do my thing. But Georgie is almost opposite of that, which is really a great thing for the studio, because she likes to really collaborate with literally every minute of it. So, and then once the design comes in, internally, I would do a lot of directing. Sometimes if I don't see anything that's good enough, I could be pretty abrasive and
not you, Soonduk.
I mean, these guys are all guys. I often apologize afterwards, but at the moment of when the design concepts come in, and if I don't see what I want or what I think it's good, then I can be pretty direct about it. And I think these guys understand it often makes it a better result. And then sometimes they come back with stuff that I'm like, oh, great, So, and then we collectively work together and present the concepts to the clients.
Well, since we have Georgia here, we get to hear what it's like from her side.
Yeah.
So and I think we can all kind of agree that still, I don't know if it'll ever end. I still present work to clients, and if their initial reaction isn't, what I kind of anticipate, excitement and that they're happy, it still hurts. I don't know. I don't want that to ever go away. So I'm sure there's times, Georgie, where you've been working on something and you're excited and it just doesn't seem like it's quite the right fit to Soonduk. It's not that it's not great design, but it's just not working for that project. So what do you think it is about your relationship with Soonduk that keeps that healthy? Because you've been there for a while. So I don't think it's something that is a bad thing. So what are the other things that are happening that make those moments just learning and just growing and keep working on something?
Well, I think it really all started when I was Soonduk's student, and I was able to see how I can work together with Soonduk in Tyler, and moving to the studio. I guess I've always had that idea to like continue being really open to learning, and even if Soonduk has a suggestion that like I'm like, oh, I don't know. Most of the times when I make that change, it makes the project better. Soonduk has been at this for a really long time. She knows what she's doing. So I'm just, it's really nice to see how Soonduk thinks about design and to see her have these like aha moments in a way that I don't think of sometimes. So I find like the collaboration part of it really, really helpful. And it can definitely be humbling at times. But as I said, like I'm really open to like learning. So
I've been recently reading Radical Candor, and I don't know if either of you have ever read it, but Soonduk kind of is a good representation of it without even knowing. Because to me, my experience, because I similarly, having Soonduk as a instructor, can remember Soonduk's, I won't say harsh criticism, but direct criticism. But to me, what helped was her ability to form personal relationships with the students before giving that type of feedback.
Definitely.
And whether that is, calculated or just organic, you meet Soonduk and you very quickly, know her. You feel like she's someone you've always known. She has that openness. She genuinely cares. It's not an act, but I knew right away when I was her student that she genuinely cared about me. And so when you pair that with that type of criticism, you appreciate it. It doesn't come as a personal attack. It comes more as Soonduk is here to help.
Exactly.
And it's not, so I'm sure you experienced that. And when you talked about, that culture of like, you talked about your first job, and not many people, when they mention their first job, say, and we ate a lot of good food and we drank a lot of good wine, whatever it might be. Why is that so important, Soonduk? When you're recalling those memories, what was it about that makes it important to still recall that when you discuss a first job?
I mean, coming out of Tyler, you just like, I have like it back then. I've never been to any studios before. There was no business or graphic design class, or I've actually, that was like really literally the first design studio that I walked in. It was very intimidating. They were like, these guys were so cool, and then Bob's just such a commanding like personality. He's so great and generous, and he always knew how to work with the creative people, and then like just so much ownership of what I'm doing, because he doesn't like to explain things to you. So when he hand over a project to me, like big folder from stuff, and he called me Suni. He goes, Suni, here's your stuff. And I would just take it and go, I don't want to go back and ask any questions, because it's like there's another person who's very abrupt and like it comes off very mean. So I didn't want to go back and get any kind of reaction from him. So I would spend like hours, like I always stay late, not because they asked us to. The culture really was everybody like 9 to 5, but I was there till like 8 p.m. every night because I felt so inadequate about what I didn't know, So I just worked my ass off. But at the same time, like these guys were always like, he would take us out to lunch in these amazing restaurants. Constantly. I mean, these guys would drink like 3 martinis at lunch. and then come back, smoke. No, not that. But it's like very chill environment where there's like such a like great sense of humor. They did this yearly holiday promotion that was always funny, always great gift, and that's something that I picked up from there. I still do, and
I still love getting them.
that's and eating and drinking. I just think that everybody that worked at SK, we're all piggies. We just love to eat, and then add to it now a lot of cocktail hours and just have like sushi once a week, and just like that's like a big part of it. And I think everybody who went through, they talk about that too. People who worked at SK. I mean, I've just gained so many friends from people who worked here. They're becoming lifetime friends now. Like there are some of them getting married in their 40s, like was the second or first, like I still get invited to their weddings. It's just, I just think it's fantastic. And because I always feel like I'm always so mean. Once they leave, they'll never want to see me again. But I don't know why, but they come back. So that's been really fantastic. And I think first job really set the tone for me, because there was such a demand for professionalism. Those guys at work always, they never miss the deadline. They would never call the client and say, we're not going to make it. We send something. And I still carry that here. I mean, I get so angry if deadline is not met. I think there's only one time that I had to go back to the clients and say, we'll give it to you tomorrow. And I remember like that designer got a lot of shit from me.
I'm happy it wasn't me. Being such a small studio, it must be really challenging when you do hire someone new. So what is that process like? Like, what are you thinking about when you're talking to a potential candidate? You're very fortunate, we're friends, so I know who's coming in and out, and, you're doing something right, because folks stay with you for a lot longer than I see them in other studios. But there are times where you have to hire someone new. So what does that process feel like? Because it's a small family basically, and you're bringing in a new person. How does that go? Exactly.
I'm always very sad when somebody leaves. I just get really devastated about it for a few days. And I've been so fortunate that I also teach at Tyler, and Tyler SK is almost extension of Tyler education. In fact, Scott Lazaro tells his students who potentially apply here that you're going to grad school. So maybe that's one way of like he is defending me not paying as much as agencies. I think so, because of everybody at Tyler that know me would recommend good people, and also because I also teach there, I know a lot of students myself, and I really look for somebody who's going to fit in. And also avoid somebody like really superstar who are a bit arrogant. In my mind, no one is worth that. No one's talented enough to be like somebody that I put up with that shit. So, so a lot of times, like looking at the big potential in a sense that I could see by looking through their portfolio, how much they cared for the projects, thought process, the presentation, and also the person. There are some things that I can't handle. Too much cologne or perfume.
Everyone listening, remember that.
That's an example. I just can't handle that. And also in an interview, someone just talks forever. I would immediately like, okay, I don't care who you are or how talented you are. If you're going to be talking like nonstop, and then you can always project that that's the person who's like not going to get stuff done. So there's that. And and some design sensitivity. Of course, I have to like that design. Some people could be great, but I can see that they might not be for SK.
What to you, let's do like a percentage. I think about this a lot. How much is it quality of design work on its own, and how much is it the person? If you had to say, is it 50-50 you're looking at? Is it 80% design work, 20% kind of how the person does in the interview and what you've experienced with them?
Wow, that's tough. What do you think, Georgie?
Well, I think with such a small place, I think the personality definitely does count, because we are seeing each other every day. And you see that 1 to 2 people every day. So I do think having a good match personality wise is important. But of course, this is a studio that has great work. So there needs to be also a certain amount of like good design abilities. But percentage wise, I don't know. Soonduk, what do you think?
70-30 to design and personality, because design has to work. I mean, I've seen people like love the personality, but the work just doesn't, so it's really tough to find a new person for us, but it's been working out though. I mean, we've been very fortunate that way.
So Georgie, what's one of your favorite projects that you've worked on since you've been there, and talk to us a little bit about how it kind of went. Like, was it collaborative? Was it just you working on it? What do you recall if you think like, what are those? Oh, I loved working on this one thing.
Ooh, I love this question. So probably one of my favorites we work on so many projects. Being a small studio, I get to take part in a lot of projects. But one that like comes to mind recently is a project that we did for the Philadelphia Department of Public Health. We helped create a campaign that focused on promoting naloxone or Narcan to prevent at-home overdoses. And at first, it started out as a smaller campaign, and then it grew and grew. We did animations for them, bus shelter graphics, bus graphics, desktop ads, billboards, newspaper ads. I mean, the list just went on. And what was really great about that project is that it was a huge collaboration. It started off with we started off just designing a poster at first that was going to be used in a bus shelter. And for the project, pretty much it talked about these statistics in Philadelphia. The statistic was like in South Philly, 8 out of 10 overdose deaths happen at home. What keeps families safe at home? Naloxone. And so what we did is my coworker, Madison, at the time, created these beautiful illustrations of a Narcan disposal, which is like a nasal spray that was illustrated alongside things that you keep in your bathroom, like toothbrush, toothpaste, eye drops, pills. And that I was able to collaborate with the overall layout of the poster. And then once it got it expanded, Madison did the animations, and we did so many animations for them. And then I did some of the billboards, the desktop ads, newspaper ads. So that was a really great project because it was so collaborative. And it was also a really good message too.
I know it's a cause that's important in your life, and it's also always great to do work and to get to see it in the city you're in, and to know the work is having a real impact on people's lives.
So I was actually biking home one day, and I'm a biker. I bike every day, and I was biking home. I was behind a bus, and usually being behind a bus sucks because you don't want to be behind a bus as a biker. And I look up, and there was the bus ad that I helped design right on the back of the bus. And I remember chasing the bus down, trying to get photos.
That's
for
great.
proof. So yeah, that was a really great ad, not an ad. It was a really great project, not only because of the content of the collaboration aspect, but also because, as you said, like it was in the city. I got to see it on the bus. I got to see it on billboards. I would scroll online and see one of the ads that, I helped bring to life, and that was really rewarding.
That's awesome. And Soonduk, I know that, while you are a small studio, that you do collaborate with other illustrators and developers. Will you talk a little bit about some projects that include that and how that kind of works with the studio dynamic?
Yeah, sure. Of course, we're small, so we don't have developer in house for website and projects like that. So again, it's a Tyler connection. So we work with Sean Broadbeck a lot on like microsites that we do for Fox Chase Cancer Center. They have this wine gala every year. We've done maybe 9 years now. And these guys raised like a couple $1 million on this gala. So they not only we do all the package of invites and the entire event thing, and they also have every year microsite for people to go in and the register. So we work with Sean. We've been working with him on other website projects, and it's just so great because Sean is also a designer. So it's so great to work with somebody who really understands design. So almost like we're like children who draws all these things and say, "Is this okay, Mom?" And in his case, it's Dad. He's dad. He's a real dad now. So he would just advise us from the beginning. And whenever we have the concept, we always talk to him to make sure, do you think we could do, a list of things? And then he would be, generally, I don't think Sean has ever said no to whatever we wanted to do. We collaborated with 4x3 also on some web projects. And other stuff that we do is illustrators. We have 2 magazines for Fox School. One's Fox Focus and the other one is On the Verge. And first one started with John Krause, also infamous John Krause, who was my worst student at Tyler.
At least I didn't get the title.
You didn't get the title, no. No one can match up John Krause. Kristen Scheller will tell you because they were in the same class. But after all these years, this guy is like so amazing. And I think what we love about John is that he somehow figured out the way to be respected by his peers. His work is so great and so conceptual. And at the same time, he can reach the mass and impress the people next door at the same time, which is very hard to do, to be edgy and also the general public can appreciate your work. Actually, Alice Druding said this, that John's basically like a poet that creates the image, but his illustrations really speaks a poetry of like what's going on out there. And I thought that was such an amazing the compliment to this guy was my worst.
So when you're working on these magazines and he's working on illustrations, does he read the articles, come up with concepts? Do you talk about it before he gets that step? What does that usually look like?
Seriously, he always lists us as AD, but really he doesn't need that much art direction from me. We get cover articles and articles. He usually does like at least like 3-4 illustrations for the issue. And I just send him off all the articles and he comes back with a lot of sketches. Sometimes clients will have a meeting, especially for the cover image, and we would talk about it and talk to him about what we're going to to do and what they're expecting. And John would follow that, but he also comes back with other sketches. And so there's a lot of back and forth. I try not to be too intrusive with that. There have been only one time that I had to give him my pencil sketch, and I apologized. I repeat.
This is a theme, Soonduk. We gotta talk about that. Women apologize way too much, so we gotta work on that.
I don't know. I said I don't know. I direct John Klaus, but what do you think of this sketch? And he's just so chill about it. We also work with Scotty Rapesnyder, who also went to Tyler MFA, and his work is so cheerful and fun and visually so exciting that my clients really love that as well. So those are the two. I would love to work with other illustrators as well if the projects were different. But for now, because I guess we picked the right illustrator for both magazines, that clients, they don't want to change. So,
and if it's working, don't. If it's not broken, don't fix it. So you have these long-term relationships with these illustrators, but I know you've mentioned a few projects like in the 9th year of this event. So how do you work to continue your relationships with your clients? It seems like you have a lot of clients for, a long period of time. So how does that kind of go down?
The personalized with the clients in a sense that we would have lunches and sometimes host a happy hour at the studio, and some clients like that, and there's some clients that are not as interested in doing that, or they're long distance, and we send them candies. And I just think it's just mainly genuinely caring about their initiative and deliver the things that they want. Of course, that's something that happened over the years that I kind of learned that in the beginning. All of us are prima donna. I've fired clients, having such a temper, so I burned a lot of bridges. And what I found out is that when you burn one bridge with a client, you are basically losing possible 10 different clients that might come from that connection. I really hate marketing. I hardly ever do any kind of cold calls or reaching out to new clients. Business is really built based on really word of mouth, the people liking our work and recommending us to other potential clients. So I think we try everything possible to be really nice. And I think that somebody like Georgie, who's just so friendly, and she's like a sunshine, right? She brightens up the room when she walks in. So I think it's she's becoming really part of the studio where clients recognize. Of course, they think, I am the owner, but they also really recognize Georgie as a big part of the studio. So she's truly important. So I have nightmares about her going somewhere else.
Don't make that announcement right now, Georgie. So, Georgie, I'm going to jump to you actually, because going back to that first job I had, and the one founder, John Klotna, who I'm still close with, I owe him a call. So maybe if he's listening, I owe you a call, John. Anyway, I recall, and I've talked about this before in the show, I have a very, very strong memory of sitting down with a client. I remember what client was at this job, and watching John present and sitting there and thinking to myself, I will never be able to do that. There was just something about the ease of how he could connect with the people and the way he presented the work. It was obvious to me they were going to like it before they said anything, just by how he presented it. So I'm curious. And while yes, you've always been friendly. I loved having you in class. You always were part of the conversation. And I know exactly what Soonduk is talking about. I'm sure there was still that learning curve. So what are some things that you kind of have picked up along the way? And, you've been there long enough. You're a senior designer. You're probably presenting a lot more to clients now than you did 5 years ago. So how has that journey been for you?
I was definitely nervous. And to be quite honest, I'm still very nervous when we give any sort of presentation to any client. There's always an excitement that comes along with it, but and I'm always very happy, but I am so nervous. I can't stress that enough. And I actually also had I also had a similar moment like you had with your boss, where when I was first working here, and to this day, when I see Soonduk presenting to a client, the way that she is able to talk about the work is so impressive, and it's inspirational in a way that I strive to be able to do that one day. As I've been working here more and more, I have been able to, work up the courage to speak more in meetings, and I've been able to have more responsibility with projects and more contact with clients. So that was really organic in the way it happened. But I'm always very nervous when we present.
Soonduk, are you still nervous when you present to a client?
Yeah, of course.
I still am. So,
I mean, because there's usually a lot of our clients we work with them many years. Typically they like what we have. Clients have more problem choosing which one rather than they hate everything. But there's always going to be that one time, right? So you're just going in, talking about this, and it's just what if they really hate this?
Sure. And it does help. Having clients that you've presented to many times. Again, it's the same reason why we were talking about earlier, why feedback on your work, Georgie, might, be easier coming from Soonduk because of that relationship. With a client, to me, it's the same. I'm always most nervous with new clients just because you don't know what to expect.
True.
But it does get better, Georgie. I promise that. But like we said, I don't think it ever goes away. So for anyone listening, I think that's what, for me, that's what drives a good presentation actually, is a little bit of that nerve, because it gets me ready. I kind of feed off of that.
Definitely. It does keep you on your toes.
Absolutely. And I think more you do it, you're more prepared to respond when they are negative to, or recently there has not been anything negative, but if they didn't respond as well as you want them to, or they have concerns, I think that I feel experience has it something that I kind of learned how to do 10 years ago to now, that how I could nurture the client when internally I'll be a little upset, what kind of comment is that? But in the beginning, I would have been I've actually said to a client that it's that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Because the look on their face is I remember I did that. So Jeremy was there, he looked at me but it was really something she said. And I actually said that, but I would never do that now.
I know. I want to dig into that, because you've said it a few times now, that you burned some bridges early on, and that you think about it. It made me think, though, one time I presented something to a client, and they said to me, "It looks like my kindergartner could have done that."
Oh, wow.
I know. I quit. It was a freelance gig, and that was where I had to draw the line.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm with you, though, and that was enough years back now that I don't know if I handled the situation correctly. It just was the moment of kind of hearing those words and how I felt, and I definitely reacted. But Soonduk, for you, what has changed? Is it the world that's changed? Has Soonduk changed? Are you changing your reaction because you know how it impacts business, or are you changing your reaction because you've changed?
I think it's both, right? When you just said that my kindergartner would have done that, my reaction would have been I'm sure the kindergartner would have been better than me. So I just think that Well, when you're young and immature and also like so surrounded by the bubble of design community, so I really think having a child that changed me drastically in a way that um, raising a child, the amount of love. I actually told Ori the other day, I was like, I'm like just so not qualified to be a mother. I don't have that, maternal instinct of like, some woman, like they are mothers, like from day one, right? Like I just don't have that at all. I just said the way I just raised you was like only genuine 100% love for you. That kind of get me going to be a mom. But like even now when I see any kind of crisis, people are handling children, I'm like, I don't have it. I really,
I will debate that one, but keep going.
so in a way, like raising a child, and then you are encountering a lot of things, then that you kind of learn how to nurture and handle the situation. A lot of crisis. I mean, having a kid, like no matter how good your kid is, like there's just so many things that experience you go to that you have to deal with, right? And another like big difference that I thought that was a change in me was before I had a child, I was more, in the bubble of like all my friends are graphic designers, and that they were the only people I hung out with, and like pretty much that was my world. Having a child, I was suddenly exposed to all these other people. There are like teachers, lawyers, doctors,
Whatever friends she's making, their parents, yeah.
All these other parents because of my kid, whether you are sitting in, rehearsal for the theater or the sports games, whatever she was into, I had to connect with these people that otherwise I would have never have even met. And that changed me because then they were cool. They were okay. They were like interesting. And also it was like a bit of a break from all these designers.
I'm like, I feel like you're talking for me, Soonduk. I've experienced the exact same thing.
Right? And also raising a child also made me a better teacher and better boss. Always think about that. Like you have a kid, so even like these guys are very similar in age with my own child. So even handling like any kind of issues, I would always think about that, like how I want my kid to be handled if she did something like this. So I think that's just been a really great guidance and reference point for me to be really kinder, gentler.
Yeah. I always say like what changed for me, because it changed my teaching. That's what I think about a lot, is that when I'm feeling those moments of frustration with a student, I always think like there's someone out there, hopefully, not everyone, but most likely there's someone out there who thinks their shit doesn't stink. Like someone loves this person the way I love my kids. And so I'm going to find that part of that person and not be angry about them not doing their work and whatever's happening. I always go back to that. That definitely changed how I approach teaching and business, I'm sure. I haven't thought about it in that context, but it's interesting to hear you, Soonduk, relate that to working with clients and meeting different people. I love that.
And also that as I mature, I understand that it's really not all about my designer ego. It's really the graphic design. I mean, at some point there was a quote that somebody said that I used in my class a few times is, fine artists masturbate and graphic designers make love. And so so it's the collaboration, not just within the studio with the designers, but also with clients. It has to work for them. We are here to make the client look good. for their jobs. 'Cause, I mean, most of our clients are like, we don't really have small business clients. Mostly they are like institutions and foundations, like city government and that kind of thing. So they are doing their job. That we are there to support their mission and their job to make them shine in there.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to listen to them, and I have to find a reason why we're doing this. So, and then somehow injecting our creativity, whether it's a visual or conceptual, or any kind of communications that we are trying to convey. And so it's almost negotiating with the client in a way that it works for them, but when it's done, then we are also happy that we didn't just give into everything that was all about clients. So that just came more like organic way, just like developed over the years.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it. I'm just kind of forming this thought in my head because I think I was definitely lived in some of that time period of like designer knows best and of kind of sticking to that grouping, which I don't think exists as much anymore to the younger designers the same way it did for us. I don't know, maybe it does, but I feel like in a way, one of the positive sides of social media and just technology is that, and I would say design thinking and some companies that have kind of have created terminology for the masses, that design is more respected now than it may have been. And that there may have been a need at the time to have that insular, sticking to our own, like we know what's happening, because there wasn't the same respect out there. Does that resonate? I don't know if that's true or not. It's just something I've been thinking about.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. It's a positive thing.
Yeah. Because like back then, people really didn't know what graphic design is or what graphic designers do. And now you actually see movies and they actually, the characters are graphic designers.
I know. It's always so fun. So, Georgie, hearing some of this and thinking about how times have changed, have you seen changes in your time? And just, 6 years out of school, do you feel like, anything particular has made you change and think differently about your approach to design?
I mean, from when I first started working here, Soonduk always, gave me the mentality that if you do something, even if it's gorgeous, if the client isn't happy, then you haven't done your job. So I've always, Soonduk has taught me that there always has to be a balance between doing something that you like, but also making sure that you are adhering to all the client's needs. Because I've done things that I'm like, oh, this is so great. This looks great. And I show it to Soonduk and Soonduk's like, yeah, it does look nice, but does it fit what the client wants? And then I have to, take a step back and remember that, the client is the customer. And even though I am an artist, I am a graphic designer, it is about that relationship. And if you don't make, the client happy, then you haven't really done your job.
All right. Well, this has been an amazing conversation. I feel like we could keep going for a long, long time and dig even deeper into some fun, funny stories of Soonduk, but I'm reaching time and I'm going to conclude this episode. So I want to thank you both so much for taking out the time to come on today. If anyone out there hasn't seen some of the really beautiful work that comes out of SK, please take a look at their website. It's skdesignworks.com. And thank you both.
Oh, thank you for having us. This was so much fun.
It was so nice to see you.
Thanks, Georgie. Thanks, Soonduk. Thank you all so much for listening. We'd love to hear your feedback. Feel free to send us a message or leave us a review. To learn more about the show, check out our website at designtogetherpod.com. Special thanks to Rob Weston at Great Magnet Recording Concerns for providing our post-production.